Hello everyone, I'm back, and just before you view this video, please do check the other one, because it lists my 10 favorite classes according to everything that I know. So don't get me wrong. Anyway, now is the top 10 individual. Now, there's a lot of factors I'm gonna do. Different types. So all the ships that are currently in game right now will be ranked from 10 to 1. That's how I do it all the time. 10 to 1. So my number 10 pick would be the Tirpitz, because she's one of 2 Bismarck class super battleships. That's why I consider them super battleships, because their armor is ridiculous. Well, you ask the British, how in the world did they sink the Bismarck? They didn't. They scuttled their own ship, as in the Germans did. So anyway, on to its personal life. It was finished right after Bismarck's sinking in 1941, and when the convoys from the United Kingdom try to go to Russia, they only have one route. That is through the north. Because if they go through Denmark, well, it's gonna get real bad. Because there are German ships in the area, and someone's under their territory. Norway is even more just as dangerous, but chances of them being spotted lower. So that's what they did. They went through the Norway, to get to Russia. And because Tirpitz was in the area, well, the Allies were already frightened. And because she's the last of 2 Bismarck-class super battleships constructed by Germany, and I tell you, it is one heck of a ship. And I'm serious, just read its record. It's simple. So, to sum it all up, she's just been sitting down there doing nothing throughout her life. She's been sitting there, no action. Although, she was supposed to have action against the Iowa, though that never came. Because the Tirpitz was bombed by some Grand Slams, and which tore her hull. Even the double layer wasn't enough. But regardless, well, the amount of fear that she created was immense. That if you watch World of Warships Naval Legends, the Arctic convoys, man, she really posed a huge threat. A very, very big threat. That to any Arctic convoy. So that's why Tirpitz is my number 10 on the list. Now, moving on to number 9. Though I think it can be argued that Tirpitz should be higher up. But no, I've got someone on top of that. The next ship that I think, is one of my personal favorite, number 9, would have to be the Queen Elizabeth. The Queen Elizabeth was constructed during World War I, saw service during the Battle of Jutland, and later on in World War II. Queen Elizabeth, well, to be honest, actually I wanted to do on the War Spy because, well, she's one heck of a ship that I know. But, oh well. You know what? I don't mind doing her big sister. I really do not mind. I'm doing her big sister, the Queen Elizabeth. The Queen Elizabeth is, by World War I standards, she's a super dreadnought. She mounts 8 15-inch guns, several 130 or 140 millimeters, though I don't know exactly, but should be around there. But during the 1920s and 30s, she was to be upgraded with AA cannons and to protect herself against the enemy aircraft. That would definitely happen in time to come. Her performance, well, I would say it's been impressive. But, well, as you can see by stats, her AA evasion not so good. By World War II standards, but if it's by World War I standards, it should be impressive. Her firepower with those 8 15-inch cannons really put the Germans... Well, I mean, it makes the Germans rethink again. So the Germans had to come up with their Bayern, I don't know. Any ship that has the same caliber as the Queen Elizabeth, it created quite a well arms race after Dreadnought, but Queen Elizabeth is technically a super battleship by standards. It was in World War I. On to World War II, her action was not so impressive. I mean, I don't know about her World War II, but I know that, I mean, like most British ships, she was in the Atlantic, protecting convoys. Though my guess would be somewhere in the maybe northern section of the Atlantic. But because of the Battle of Jutland, I really do like the Queen Elizabeth. But again, nothing much I can say about it. Now, oh wait, now that I think about it, Dulcich is a Norfolk class heavy cruiser, so that part where I mentioned the Dulcich, it just, well, I made a mistake. It is a Norfolk class. Next one, it's not so easy because some of these I don't know, some of these I know, that kind of stuff. But if I were to pick number 8, it would be Rodney. Rodney was the last of 2 Nelson class as battleships and one of the Big 7 battleships. The others being her big sister, the Colorado class and the Nagato class. They all had the world's largest caliber at the time. They have a total of 9 16-inch guns, which makes them probably the most powerful of the Big 7, with maybe the exception of Nagato. Anyway, her service in World War II, I would say, is like most British ships, again, protecting the Atlantic convoys, or maybe even the Arctic. The Rodney was best known for the Hunt of the Bismarck, right? Because when she was actually fighting the Bismarck before she was called in, she was having refits in the US. She was having refit. So they basically the British just sent her without refit. And that's how it was during the battle against Bismarck. Alright, and you should probably watch, what was it? Extra History. Sinking the Bismarck. And I tell you, it really gave the true situation of Rodney in the last part. Alright, it really did give Rodney. And it's true, she was under refit when she had to go chase Bismarck, because, well, the Germans had the big 15-inch guns out there because of Bismarck, so the British were like, why not? Let's bring some 16-inch. There you go, Rodney. And to be honest, she is one of 4 British ships that participated in the final destruction of Bismarck. The others being King George V, Dulcich, and I think Suffolk? I don't know. Well, I haven't read that up in a while. But her 16-inch shells really tore the Bismarck to shreds. I'm serious, it kind of tore her, or some of her areas. For that reason, well, based on firepower, she's my number 8. Now on to number 7. To be honest, it's kind of difficult, because there's so many that I like, that if I were to pick my number... Wait, I already done the Tirpitz. My number 7. I would say the Exeter. The Exeter is the last of two York-class heavy cruiser, not to be mistaken with the German battle cruiser, not to be mistaken with it. No wait, sorry, the German heavy cruiser. No. She mounts 6 8-inch guns, which I would say is pretty low in terms of power. To be honest, there's two actions that... one action that I know she was part of. Like most British ships, again, she was put into Atlantic convoys, but when word got out that they are to hunt the Graf Spee, well, Exeter, Ajax, and Achilles were the first to contact the Graf Spee, damage the Graf Spee, send it to port, and later to be scuttled. Later, she was transferred to the Pacific Theater, only to be sunk by the Japanese. That's as far as I know, but because of her significance, to be honest, during the Battle of the River Plate, she played a significant contribution, though not as much as Achilles and Ajax. Her contribution was, well, the Graf Spee only had 3 inches of armor, so it's like, why not? Let's tear it up with 8-inch. So the 8-inch put the Graf Spee into a kind of bad state. It's like, yikes, I'm not gonna do that again, ever. But of course, we all know the Graf Spee sunk, was scuttled in the end. So she played a significant, quite a factor in the sinking of the Graf Spee, along with, of course, the Achilles and Ajax. Based on power, it's not as great as many of the later generation cruisers. Not as great. But her importance during the Battle of the River Plate puts it high. So for that, she is number 7. On to number 6. If I were to pick my personal favorite, it would have to be Belfast. Because, well, there's a lot of reasons. Once the war started, you should watch Naval Legends Belfast. You'll know the full story of Belfast. But I'm gonna sum it up. Start of the war. Somehow, a mine detonates underneath her. What? How? She was put out of action until 1942. She participated in the sinking of Scharnhorst, though she stole the Scharnhorst as long as she can until the Duke of York arrived, and of course protected the Atlantic convoys, like most British ships at the time. She survived the war, later was used in Korea, and preserved. In the end, she's the only British warship that it's in British hands that actually survived. That means to say, like, the HMS Belfast was constructed by the British, kept by the British, that kind of thing. She's the only surface warship kept by the British. And she's not the only British ship that's kept as a museum. The HMS Alliance, maybe, though I'm actually gonna search that up later, and the IJM Mikasa. Mikasa was originally British, but was given to the Japanese Navy, and of course she fought in the Russo-Japanese War. So that's the facts. Like, she's not the only one, and that's preserved for the United Kingdom. Anyway, because of quite the life, she has the number 6 spot. And if you're gonna ask me, what could be higher than her? I have no idea. What could be higher? Wait. Now it's number 5. Now I just thought about it. Number 5. To be honest, it's kind of a hard one. But if I were to say number 5, it would be Arizona. Sorry about that, guys. I had to do a little something. Anyway, the Arizona is one of 2 Pennsylvania class battleships. Last of the class, well, she mounts 12, 11, 14-inch cannons, and to be honest, I don't know why they're the paint, though I can't see on the Pennsylvania. Give me a second. Oh wait, I don't know what there is, so I don't know why they painted it in the first place, but I think it's like a symbol or something. Arizona was one of the prize ships. It was a key Japanese target. It's a sink, though I don't know why. I mean, it's like she's done nothing wrong. Oh, so why would the Japanese even sink her? I mean, why is she the primary target during the assault on Pearl Harbor? I think if I'm not wrong, she just missed World War I. And of course, post-war, she did naval exercises and all. World War II, start of the war. Kaboom. Adios. I feel bad. Anyway, well, the Arizona is really... I mean, if you guys have seen all my other lame videos, I've always used the Arizona. Always. And to be honest, if you guys are to take a look at it, about the current status that's in the fleet, in terms of firepower, she's actually even better than Hood and Nelson, because look at that, 299. That is really how powerful she is in here, at least. But anyway, her significance was the attack on Pearl Harbor was the poster that came out later was Remember Alamo. And of course, well, okay, think about it. Every American ship, every fight the Americans have been in, most of the time were pirates. Most of the time. From the 19th century all the way to now, it's mostly done by pirates. And only 3 times our actual military ships. The American-Spanish Civil War, World War II. World War II, I think that was because of the Arizona's destruction. And to be honest, her destruction was arguably America's worst casualties in one battle. If you guys watched the Pearl Harbor movie made in 2001, directed by Michael Bay, which we all, kind of love him for doing Transformers. But anyway, about the Arizona, well, she's the sister of the flagship of the Pacific Fleet. At the time, that was the Pennsylvania. And after the raid on Pearl Harbor, she couldn't be salvaged at all because of the explosion in the forward magazine. That caused quite a destructive power that the hull just split in 2. Not like Hood or Mutsu. No, not like that. Is the front of the hull, behind the front of the hull, completely came down. So they couldn't refloat her. And today she is a memorial, in Pearl Harbor, just right behind the Missouri. So Arizona, it signifies the start of World War II for the United States, and the Missouri as the end of it. The end of World War II. So for that, she really is my number 5. Because of her sad life. Okay. Wait. Okay, now is number 4. Number 4 will be the Washington. The Washington is the last of 2 North Carolina class battleships. and technically, they are the prototype, along with the South Dakota. They are the prototypes for their their future model, the Iowa, the most arguably America's last battleship class ever built, and the last active one in the world. Although now they're all decommissioned, and because, well, they have quite the price tag after refit because of the Soviets, the Cold War. Anyway, about the Washington, this place is in roughly 50,000 tons, just like all the future models. Well, they all weigh about the same, except Iowa is of course the heavier one. So technically the North Carolinas are at the bottom end of that 50,000 ton. I mean the 40,000 ton, followed by the South Dakota and of course the Iowa. They carry 9 16-inch Mark 6. It uses the same guns that of Colorado. I mean, their firepower is almost equal to Colorado, but in terms of defense, is a lot better than Colorado. They also are armed with 25-inch cannons, and later in the war, 40 and 20 millimeter cannons. And I'd say, I mean, last generation American battleships are too well defended against the air. Way too defended, which is a good thing because, you know, the Pacific theater now is shifting to aerial warfare. Anyway, about the Washington, well, you guys should watch Battle 360. It describes the Washington in only one episode, but, well, she stayed throughout the war. Washington was best known for her action. What was it? Iron Bolton Sound. While everyone was both navies are dueling each other, the Washington slugged it out with the battleship Kirishima. Though that was a mistake, it's a battle cruiser, not a battleship, because Kirishima is armed with 14-inch cannons. So, the Washington fired so many rounds that Kirishima became a burning wreck, and later sunk. And Washington is the only battleship in the US Navy to have sunk another battleship. I mean, serious. So, I mean, for her, it's quite an achievement. So, they're recognized as the only American battleship class that has sunk in an enemy battleship in the US. And to be honest, had her task force not been there that night, well, the Japanese would have bombarded the heck out of the US. And of course taken Henderson Field, meaning the Guadalcanal campaign was over. For the Americans, that is. And to be honest, well, she played quite a role that night. She was the flagship of Willis Lee, which was pretty... And, well, his flagship that night was the Washington, and banging away the 9 16-inch guns and the 10 5-inch guns. That is because, well, there are 10 dual purpose, 10 on each side. So that means, well, 5 dual purpose. And they're twin mounts. Because of that, well, they won. Anyway, I think I spent too much time already. Number 4. If I were to pick my personal favorite, I don't know. Not my personal favorite, number 4. But if I were to pick one ship, it would be... To be honest, I just wish I viewed Dachi right now because, well, she'll be one of my favorite 10, but no, she's not, because I'm doing the video based on whatever's here, so that's what I'm gonna do. Number 4 is the Lexington. To be honest, I had a big problem. I was gonna choose between the Saratoga and the Lexington. So I was like, who should I pick? Ooh. So eventually I was like, Saratoga is a good choice, but I think, why not the Lexington? About the Lexington, well, she was originally supposed to be a battlecruiser that explained her big size in real life. That really explained in her super big size. Let's be honest, she's even bigger than the Japanese Akagi and Kaga. She's a lot bigger. Originally, she was supposed to be armed with 8, I think 15-inch guns? So technically that would have made her a super dreadnought. Technically. But of course that never happened because of the Washington Naval Treaty that restricted construction of new battleships and battle cruisers, but not carriers. So what the US, Japanese, and British did was convert all their projects into aircraft carriers. We've got the Lexington, Saratoga, Akagi, Kaga, and the Courageous class. That's all converted into aircraft carriers. We have the Courageous having 3 flight decks, the Japanese copying them in the first place, and the Lexington, well, took a different approach. Unlike the Akagi, Kaga, and the Courageous classes, Lexington was the first full flight deck. I mean, like a truly modern design that, of course, inspired future designs, such as the Yorktowns, and I mean, pretty much every future carrier in every navy. She inspired the future designs. With, of course, the island bridge, the smokestack at the top. But to be honest, back in the 1920s and 30s, their main focus was that if the surface fleets get knocked out, and let's say an enemy destroyer comes next to a carrier, they open up with the 8-inch cannons. So they were like, okay, why not? Let's put in the 8-inch guns. But by 1942, 1943, they realized that this was not a good idea. Lexington was already destroyed at the Coral Sea, so they modified Saratoga to have the new 5-inch dual purpose that's also used in American battleships, along with more cannons, which made her super destructive, if against aircraft. To be honest, there's many things significant about the Lexington. That's why I chose to discuss it. That's why I chose her as my number 4, not Saratoga. So, because of her pretty unique design compared to the other classes of carriers that was converted, she's truly the most special. All of the 4 classes that were converted into carriers, she's the most special of them. Because, like I said, she featured the island bridge, which will be a distinct feature for all carriers in the future. So, I mean, it gave them better command and ability, but of course risked them being killed. But, nonetheless, it is a very good idea. Next on, moving on, number 3. Now, number 3, I would say is a difficult one, but I would say, of course, it's the Hood. The Mighty Hood. That's what she's known as, the Mighty Hood. She was built just right after World War I, just missing a slight. She's armed with 8 15-inch guns, and her armor was super weak, meaning one direct hit is game over. And that's what exactly happened when she went against the Bismarck. But anyway, about her career. just finished right after World War One. She was a symbol of British sea power, and she has been pretty much all over the world. So whenever the British colonies see her, they welcome her. And well, pretty much everything. So she did kind of a world tour, and she's a super special guest. Just because, well, she's technically just as fast as the Queen Elizabeth, or I would say even faster than the Queen Elizabeth. So if I were to say, technically the Hood is an upgrade of the Queen Elizabeth's. That's what I think. But let me hear you guys what you think about the Hood. Is she an upgraded version of the Queen Elizabeth class, or is she totally a new design? But to be honest, I think, it's kind of like an upgraded version. But anyway, in World War II, she served as Force H flagship, which had another very important member, the Ark Royal, which avenged her death. And, well, several years after her, 2 years later. Now, skipping forward, May 1941, and she and Prince of Wales engaged with the German Prince Eugen and Bismarck. The objective was to destroy Bismarck before she could be set loose in the Atlantic, and of course devastate British convoys that was supplying Britain. First few minutes, it's engaged. First minute since first contact, the British fire first, mistaking the lead ship as Bismarck, because Bismarck was actually behind. Because Lutyens let Prince Eugen take lead, so they mistake it for Bismarck. And to be honest, they're very identical. Well, that it's almost impossible to tell apart. Almost impossible just at one look. But to be honest, the difference between them was size, obviously. But to be honest, keeping the design almost the same really tricked the British. A few minutes into combat, Bismarck fires a salvo. One of them found their mark, got into Hood's magazine, detonation. Bye-bye. She was gone, just like that. Cracked in half, as if she was as if she was a nut. Yeah? Oh. Actually, guys, give me a second. I'm serious, just give me a second. I'll just leave it right here. Yes? Okay, I'm back. Anyway, to be honest, well, after a destruction, it signals the world that a new naval superpower is gonna be here. Well, that is gonna be the Germans, but of course that did not happen. And instead, it was the United States, because they had so many ships by the war end. Many classes, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, submarines, carriers. And to be honest, the US made the most advanced fleet in the world, in terms of everything. So Hood was the place where British sea power ends for good, because she was the symbol of British sea power. Anyway, well, that's pretty much all about her. Now, my number 2, to be honest, is kind of difficult. Real difficult. I was thinking that my last 2 picks are carriers, but there's so many that made an impact. Let's say we have the Langley, the first carrier in the US, but of course I don't know much about it. So I plus minus. They only left 2 classes. And of course they are my favorite 2 ships. My favorite 2 classes in literally this whole list. Which is the Yorktown class, and the Zuikaku class. It just had to be them. Because, well, they're my favorites. My favorite class of aircraft carriers. But if I had to pick my number 2 favorite, it is the Enterprise. I'm sorry guys if I upset you that, well, she deserves number 1. Anyway, about Enterprise, as I've said in the previous video, she was launched in 1936. I think she was just ready for war, or in 1939. And once the Pacific War started, her first mission was to bomb Wake Island, which was full of Japanese ships, and those were her first kills. Those of the 71 she would destroy in the future. And to be honest, aside from the 71 ships she destroyed, she damaged 92 ships, which I must say, quite a record that no carrier in the world could possibly match. Okay, late 1941. Well, her first missions were just to kind of base raid. 1942, we go to the Doolittle raid. She escorts Hornet to Japan, bomb the heck out of the Japanese from the Hornet, which the Hornet was carrying Army B-25s, drop it on the Japanese, and Doolittle's men go home to China, whereas the US fleet, on the other hand, returns to the US. Fast forward again, June 1942, she took part in the Battle of Midway, which she played quite a huge role. During the Battle of Midway, she would sink 3 of the 4 Japanese carriers that were sent. 3 of them, which I would say is a pretty big number. And of course, the battle came at a price. The price was the Yorktown. The Yorktown sunk, along with the Hammond, which was towing her to safety, but of course torpedoed by the submarine. Damn you, submarines. And to be honest, submarines is anyone's worst nightmare. Ugh, I hate them. If I'm the sailor on a ship. But if I'm on a submarine, I would love it, because I could just KO anyone at any time. Okay, fast forward, August 1942, she participated in the Battle of Guadalcanal, which will last until 1943. Naval action, Battle of the Eastern Solomons. They took out the Ryujo, which of course ended Japanese air supremacy in the region. And fast forward again, later that year, November 1942, Battle of Santa Cruz. They turned away the Japanese, but at again a price. Hornet was destroyed because, well, they couldn't get her out of there. So she was left to her fate. So it's either they let the Japanese destroy their whole fleet, or just lose the Hornet. So they chose to lose the Hornet. And because of damage. Tried to scuttle her, failed. When the Japanese came and sank her, it succeeded. So that left her as the sole survivor of the class. Later, 1943, mid-1943, she went back to the US, and she hasn't been home since 1942 after the Doolittle raid. She was to be refitted completely. So the radar was upgraded on both islands. The one in the front, the one at the stack. Her flight deck is to be kind of upgraded, and all her existing aircraft and weapons are replaced by newer ones. What I mean by newer ones, what I mean is her 50 caliber machine guns were replaced with 20mm Oerlikons. Her 1.1 inch cannons were replaced with 40mm cannons, which gave her a much better AA. And again, flash forward, D-Day in Saipan. She participated in the Battle of the Philippine Sea, also known as the Great Mariana Turkey Shoot, which it was pretty well known to be the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot by the Americans. And I will not go over the battle details. You can find it on Battle 360. You can find it on... No, wait. You only can find it on Battle 360. It explains her whole story from start to finish, and pretty much in detail about her life as a fighting ship. Flash forward again, October 1944. Battle of Leyte. She was part of Halsey's 3rd Fleet, and Halsey now, by October 1944's command ship was the New Jersey. So you could say that, well, it feels like Halsey betrayed her. Kind of betrayed. No way, definitely betrayed her, because originally Enterprise was Halsey's flagship until, of course, the New Jersey came in. But, well, she was part of 3rd Fleet. Aside from her, all the others were more modern generation carriers, such as the Essex. The Essex and Independence class aircraft carriers, which those two are actually newer generation. And she participated in the battle and finally putting the Japanese carrier to a stop. But of course left the Surigayos... which of course had Kurita to enter the north of, and of course the Battle of Samar. And next, flash forward 1945, which marks the end of her entire career. On the way to Okinawa, she was, kamikazed. And this one pilot did something that the whole damn Japanese Navy could not. Take Enterprise out of the fight for good. If they had done this earlier, well, Japan would have won the war. But of course that did not happen. And I must say, what the heck is the Japanese doing? Because, they couldn't take her out throughout the entire duration of the war. And only that one pilot took her out. I must say, Japanese Navy, how is it that you can't kill her and one pilot can almost kill her completely? What the heck? And by the time she was done with repairs, the war was over. So, Halsey tried to raise money to preserve her as museum, but of course that failed. Sent for scrap. That in 1947, and later reborn as a nuclear carrier. And okay, last one, Zuikaku once again. Though that may change over time. So for this one, this one and the previous video is talking about their history in the real world, and from the next one onwards, I'm not gonna do that style. No, because I've already covered it already. So I'm gonna do it based on how I think about them, and from, pretty much next year. Anyway, about Zuikaku, she was just ready for Pearl Harbor, or when she was commissioned, so technically she's a few weeks old. once the Pacific War began. And okay, flash forward again. 1940 May 1942. The Battle of the Coral Sea. The Japanese, of course, failed to invade Port Moresby, which, of course, later the Americans could go north to the Philippines. Flash forward August 1942. Battle of the Eastern Solomons. November 1942. Battle of Santa Cruz. June 1944. Battle of Philippine Sea, also known as the Great Mariana Turkey Shoot. Which, by the way, guys, I think you should hear this time, but I forget where. I know it's one of these main screens. I know it's one of them, but I can't remember which. I'm gonna just play them all. Wrong. Nope. Nope. This line. Her least favorite food? Turkey. Anyway, well, it kind of relates to why she hates turkeys. It's because she lost her sister in the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. Of the 4 Japanese carriers that were in the Battle of the Philippine Sea, Taiho, don't know which other carrier, and Shokaku, no wait, were sunk. OKO. Taiho was destroyed by the Albacore. Shokaku was sunk by another American submarine, and the other carrier too, which left Zuikaku as the sole survivor of the 4. Flash forward, October 1944, the end of her career. Battle of Leyte. She was part of the Northern Fleet, which the objective was to bait Halsey's 3rd Fleet away, and I mean literally away from Leyte, the Leyte landings. And to be honest, there was one reason why and only one reason the American 3rd Fleet was drawn north, and that's because of Zuikaku. She's the last survivor of the 6 carriers that attacked Pearl Harbor back in December 41. So of course Halsey took the bait. I mean, like, what? Why would you go after one aircraft carrier? I mean, seriously, you just left the whole of the northern approach to Leyte completely unguarded. What the heck are you doing? I mean, seriously, Halsey just went north to just kill one carrier. What the heck is he doing? So of course, well, to be honest, she played quite a part in that battle, baiting Halsey north, because, well, she's the sole survivor. Because his motto was hit fast, hit hard, hit often. And of course, well, that's what exactly happened. Got baited by the Zuikaku. And as a result, well, left the northern approach to Leyte completely unguarded. Battle of Samar, the Japanese turned away. Yeah. That's what exactly happened. And why I say she's my favorite? Well, sure, the Enterprise should have deserved this spot. She should. But no. The reason why I say she doesn't deserve it is, well, Zuikaku is just really my favorite. I mean, she has done quite a lot. She has done quite a role in the Japanese Navy. Quite a role. Same with the Enterprise. But if I were to say, well, if they were to go in a one-on-one fight, Enterprise versus Zuikaku, Zuikaku will most probably come out on top. Because, I mean, that's 1941, 1942, but 1943, 1944, 1945, it would have been the reverse, because Enterprise already has the better aircraft at that stage. But regardless, she's my favorite. And to be honest, her character design in this game really looks better than Enterprise. A lot better. With that, guys, well, I'm gonna end this video because it's been literally even longer than the last because of totally unwanted pauses. That, guys, Zuikaku is my #1 pick. With that, guys, I will see you all in New Year. That means 2nd January. I'll see you all. So please, guys, keep this in mind. It might change. My top 10 classes and my top 10 individual ships might change over time. With that, guys, I'll see you all next week on the 2nd January.